Hello, I'm Jonathan Bowman-Perks and welcome back to the Inspiring Leadership series and my favourite time of the week. This week I'm very lucky to be with Alex Knigge, and he is the Senior Vice President, Marketing, Digital Communications and Brand for Emirates Group, but Emirates Airline in particular. I'm very lucky that I met Alex through the work that I do with the Marketing Academy, which is taking senior marketing officers and chief marketing officers particularly in a whole variety of global brands, helping them prepare for future roles and one day perhaps being CEOs. But Alex, tell us a bit about a little bit about your career, and then who your inspiring leadership role models have been.
Sure. So a little bit about myself. I'm originally German. I've lived in many places around the world. So I've lived in Australia for 6 years. I've lived in Singapore for a couple of years. I've been now living in Dubai for more than 4 years. I've lived also South America for about 3.5 years. So I've lived in different cultural contexts, and I have 2 children, very happily married. I'm a very active person in general. And I would say I'm a friendly, humble guy in general.
That's very nice. And we were talking about who inspired you, and particularly we were talking about your father. Do you want to say a bit more about your father as someone, his values and qualities, and how they've influenced you? And then maybe a story about your own example of inspiring leadership.
Sure. So the people that inspired me, the person who had the biggest impact on my life would be my father, who I've always looked up to him my entire life, and he has been a person that's very courageous, has a lot of integrity, has been consistent in his behaviors, and the way he respects other people, treats other people over decades. And I've found him to be incredibly intelligent, humble, but at the same time not arrogant. He has had a lot of senior roles in the German government, but he never sort of developed a huge ego or became arrogant. And over the decades, so if I look at how people see him now, he's now early 70s. People have tremendous respect for him, because they developed that over so many decades of sort of working with him and working for him.
Yeah.
And then I also was lucky because the people I've worked for, so my bosses over the last 16 years. So I had a very good boss at Jetstar when I worked in Australia. He was also he was a very ambitious person, but at the same time humble.
Yeah.
And very human, and really we had a true connection and had a lot of conversations, and he knew a lot about my personal life and cared. But also my boss in Singapore and also my current boss, they're all sort of similar personality types where they're very smart, they're very passionate about what they do, and at the end they have a lot of experience and they're very senior, but they're not arrogant.
And one of the things that we were talking about earlier is you're talking about the way people have brought you on, and you've passed that on. As someone said, send the elevator back down again. If you get to the top, send it back down again for others. What's happened to the people who've worked for you over the years? What's happened to their careers, and how important is looking after them to you?
I mean, one of the many definitions of leadership is sort of great leaders create great leaders.
Yeah.
And if I look back to my career, one of the things I'm really, really proud of is I have many people who have worked very closely with me, have either followed me from one job to another, and also have now passed me in terms of securing very senior jobs. So I have people who have worked for me, they have now becoming chief digital officers, chief marketing officers, chief data officers in Australia, the Middle East, and Europe. And that's something very nice to see. Or even people who started as analysts and became directors and VPs and senior VPs. And that's something I'm really proud of. If I look back and look at all the talented people I've worked with, how they have sort of really excelled in their own professional lives.
That's brilliant. And in the final couple of minutes, people are always interested in the mistakes that we make make and the things that we don't get right, because no one's human, and you're very much someone who I've found has huge humility. You're very talented, but you're very humble about it. Yet, you admit that you've often made mistakes and you learn from them. But talk to me a bit about a story about when you have made mistakes and how that shaped you as a leader today.
I mean, I became VP when I was 30 years old, and so then I'm now 42. So in the last 12 years, I've led teams between 20 and 100 people consistently. And I think initially, when you start leading people and making decisions over people's lives, promotions or also performance managing people or not progressing people, I think I had some anxieties initially about sort of the ethical side about decisions, whether it's right to pull the plug on someone quite quickly during probation, for example, and let someone go, or would it be not better to give them another shot? And I think I really over the years have learned to trust myself much more and to trust my gut when it comes to leadership decisions, and really go with an approach where I do what's right. I do what's right for the company, and I do what's right from a more strategic perspective. And that sometimes is tough for people, because it means sometimes people have to look for other opportunities, or but also it can be also very good for people, because it means it sometimes forces a new start for them, and sometimes people need that as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. And finally, just in our last minute. It's great that you work for Emirates. It seems like a fabulous brand, and you enjoy it, and it's a great culture. But what would be your final top tip that you'd leave with the executives who are listening to this recording about your leadership top tip? What would it be?
I think my top tip would be courageous, trust yourself, and focus on people, and take great pride in developing others. And sort of see yourself more in the back seat and then always in the front seat. It's not necessarily all the time sit in the front seat. Yeah.
Alex, thank you. As always, great working with you. I've been very lucky to be your coach, and I wish you every success as you go forward and all the work you do in Emirates.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.